Welcome again to Cottage Talk. I am Russ Goldman. Joining me right now is Giannis Shanaeus. This is our post-match show of Fulham's 3-1 victory against Newcastle United at Craven Cottage on Saturday. I know Giannis is excited to talk about this. I am as well. Before we go on, I just want to mention quickly, you'll see this scroll, but please do check out the Cottage Talk Patreon page. I am doing several shows each and every week, and I've got some shows lined up for this week. So please do check that out. Okay, Giannis, let's get going. Give me your opening thoughts on this massive victory for Fulham against Newcastle United. Did you see this coming?
I think it was overdue. I'm sick of them. I'm sick of playing Newcastle. I'm sick of losing. We remember the what was it, a couple of years ago was the Chalobah red card. Last year they hit us late up at St James's Park. Then they hit us late here. We've had no luck against them. But I was hopeful we'd get at least a point because I thought we played very well against West Ham, and they had out there close to their, maybe without Tonali, their strongest 11. And I thought we had a very, very good lineup out. And I thought we'd get at least a point. Fulham fans were saying, well, you played the Spammers, you played the Toon, 2 points out of 6, not so good. You want to get at least a win. But I thought that they were going to be tough games, and we had a chance of getting something. So I'm delighted we got 3, because our next 2 games, of course, are Forest away, and we know what happened when we played them last year, and then we've got City away, and they're going to be difficult games. So it was important we got off the schneid, got a good win there, and put us up to 8th.
Absolutely, Giannis. And what's interesting is that I actually did a show. I interviewed a journalist for the Shields Gazette last Wednesday, Joe Buck, not the Joe Buck that's here in America, the different Joe Buck. And he actually gave me some really good insight. And what made me feel more confident about this was that he was telling me that basically Newcastle United were not having these great performances, but they were getting points. And that he saw this match as even. And Giannis, I actually saw this as an even match going in. And what is interesting is that I had a feeling that you would see a reaction from the week that was for Fulham last week. And you absolutely saw that. And the first half, Giannis, I would argue, might be one of Fulham's best halves of the season. And I think the second half for me, I actually said this on the Cottage Talk Patreon page. The second half was more resilient. The club actually put that on X. And I would agree with that, Giannis. It was a tale of 2 halves, but the first half, I think you could see what Fulham can be, Giannis.
Yeah, the first half I thought was excellent. It was excellent, and it's funny. It sort of turned on a sixpence, didn't it, with the Joe Linton disallowing of the goal and going up the field and Raul getting the goal. I thought we were very, very good. They looked a little disjointed, Newcastle. Second half, we got off to the worst possible start for them to go marching up the field, and Harvey Barnes scoring wasn't in the script. But we did show a lot of resilience second half, and for Reece Nelson to get the goal, I mean, we got a bit of luck with that. I don't know what Leno was doing with that pass to Smith Rowe that almost got. Thank God it was Fabian Scheer and nobody else, like an Isak. Right. But then Reece scoring that late goal, I thought was important because I felt it was reflective of the result. I think 3-1 was a fair scoreline. I thought we played well enough in all aspects of the game. We knew before the game that Nick Pope had faced as many shots as all but one keeper in the division, so they were not quite on all, on all firing on all cylinders. Newcastle, they're getting the results, but they're not necessarily getting the performances. And it's a big win. And you're right, the Preston game is actually, in a way, a good result because Marco can turn around and say, well, I can really ordinarily want to put out a second 11 in a game like the Carabao Boo-Boo. Yep. And we couldn't beat a team that are currently third from bottom in the Championship. So what does that say? We need more depth, and hopefully the Khans are listening and watching and realise we need a couple more players just to... You want 2 strong 11s. It's tough on the players that are sitting on the bench, but when things get dicey in the middle of winter, you need that strength and depth to sustain you when the fixture lineup starts piling up.
Okay, excellent stuff, Giannis. And I totally agree with you. After watching that Preston North End loss, I had the same feeling that maybe because of this result, potentially maybe more results that come, that the Cons will invest more in January, because I think we are a player or two away from really contending for Europe. That's the way I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
But like you said, they need depth. I couldn't agree more, Giannis. So let's now move on. Let's go to the Cottage Talk talking points. Some of these were actually on my 5 takeaways, which are on the Patreon page, but some are new as well. Let's start with this one, because this one actually was, Giannis. This is my first thought after the match. Here it is. Newcastle United were poor, but that was because of Fulham. Now, I've listened to a lot of shows that are from the Newcastle United perspective. I've seen the media as well, and I keep hearing the same thing. They were poor. They were poor. We're talking about Newcastle United, that this result was coming because they have not been good. Their performances haven't been good. I can agree with all that, but I also think it takes away a little bit from how Fulham played, and Fulham were by far the better team. And I'm glad, like you said, that they got that third goal, because that is more of a reflection of the entire match. So for me, enough of this talk about how poor Newcastle United were, because there's a reason for it. Fulham were very good.
Yep, I agree. Newcastle, yeah, it's like any team, top team that you play, there'll be we were below par and you were above par and you got a result. They really can't have any complaints about the result. We went at them early. We had chances. We created a lot of chances. They really didn't do anything of substance in the first half. Second half, they were improved. But we were overdue a result, Ross, against them. We were overdue
Absolutely.
beating them. It was a matter of time. And really, they can't have any complaints about the result. I thought we did a very good job stopping them, especially in the centre of the park. They had Trippier back in the lineup. Guimaraes is going to do a good job if you with Joe Linton in there, but we stopped him with that central midfield. And then Emile Smith-Rowe was working his little magic, finding pockets, and we really did restrict their space in terms of the centre of the park, and we didn't give them a lot to go with. So it was a very, very good team performance. And Newcastle, Eddie Howe, if he thinks about it, will look back and say, well, we were well and truly beaten. 3-1 was probably the right scoreline.
Okay. I've got a little bonus talking point for you, and I didn't put this down, but to go along with what you were talking about, the results in the past with Newcastle United, I got to tell you, Giannis, when the yellow cards started to come, I started to get a little bit nervous because of the situations where Fulham have had players sent off against Newcastle United. Was that going through your brain too?
Yeah, and that's why I think he took Lukic off at halftime. I don't believe there was any issue about an injury, and I think that was a very intelligent sub.
I agree. We're going to talk about that coming up. I agree with you.
Yeah, it's tough on Lukic because Lukic was playing very well at the time, but we all remember the Chalobah incident, and that wasn't the last game he played for the club.
That might have been.
Might as well have been. So it was. We were starting to get yellow cards, and you don't want to take any risks. So he took him off, put Sanderberger in. It's ironic that within 60 seconds we got caught down the middle, but it was sleepy. It was just sleepy start. To be fair to Newcastle, so Brentford, that a lot. The bus stop boys have done it now twice in 2 games. What they've done, come down, marching down the pitch in the first minute, and instead of starting slow, they've started quick, and they've gone out and scored goals in both games. That's what Newcastle did to us.
Yeah.
Silva will be furious because he will say, well, we take a lead into halftime, we're playing really well, and all of a sudden we let the buggers in out of nothing. So at least these are good talking points ahead of the Forest. You can't come in and go, right, 2-goal lead, we're there. No. Against good sides, you got to be very careful. So Overall, I don't think, as I said, I don't think that any complaints. But I was getting worried when the yellow cards started coming, and the Lukic thing didn't surprise me because he looked a little upset towards the end of the first half, and the decision to take him off was a good one.
Okay, and we're going to talk about that coming up. But before we do, let's talk about Raul Jimenez, Giannis. And I'm one that, again, I didn't see this coming from him, that he would score a couple goals in the last 2 matches. He has. So has he made a strong argument for himself? Giannis, talking point is this: should Raul continue to start for the foreseeable future?
I don't see any reason why not. I thought the first goal yesterday was excellent. Lovely chest turn and shoot. Just classic goal. Pope maybe a little slow to get down, but a super goal. He's played well. He's working hard. He looks like he's having fun. Munoz is young and he's going to get his chance. He had a chance, actually. Plays one over the bar, but his chance is going to come. It's funny. A lot of Fulham fans have been going on about we really strengthened everything around the pitch, but really up front we sort of didn't. Vinicius is back in fold. He's injured at the moment.
Right.
But so you've got really Raul and Munoz. We're still desperately short of a striker. Where we get that from? Well, the January window is not a good time to get it, but next summer I'm hoping we're going to splash the cash and get a good striker in who's going to score goals. And but for the meantime, we've got these three. Let's say two and a half, 2.5, and Raul deserves his chance at the moment, and they should keep him in the lineup. I don't have any qualms about that by any means.
Yeah, I agree with you, Giannis. And I just want to mention it's ironic because I was actually really not happy that Fulham did not bring in a striker at the end of the window when they let Jay Stansfield go out. And oh, by the way, Jay Stansfield scored another goal for Birmingham City.
Yes, he did.
Just keep that in mind. He scored another goal. Another goal.
But it is, you know, a lot of fans are going, "Oh, we let him go." It's League One.
I know.
When we last in League One, it was many years ago, and Birmingham City looked the class of League One. Them and actually Wrexham, but Stansfield's going to score goals for fun.
Yeah,
but it's not the Premier League.
No, very true. Very true. No, very true. But for me, it was all about having another striker, letting him go, and they didn't get another striker. And I guess then they thought to themselves, okay, well, we'll just have Vinicius back in the fold. But I don't think that's what you really are looking for. But that's what they decided to do.
Just what they decided to do. Yeah.
All right, my friend. Let's now talk about Emile Smith-Rowe, because I think Emile Smith-Rowe, as I've said on the Patreon page of my 5 takeaways, I think now I'm really starting to see the plan for Marco and why he wanted him so badly. Honest, we've already talked about this, but each and every match, I keep seeing him get better and better. And what I've noticed from him is that I think he has made even the 2 players around him, the 3 of them are really in sync, along with the striker up front. We're talking Emile Smith-Rowe. You got Traore on one side, you got Iwobi on the other. Really starting to work well together. But I think the talking point is that Smith-Rowe has changed Fulham this season, maybe for years to come. Your thoughts?
He's a good player. I think he'll be the first to tell you he's probably a third of the season away from being at full fitness, but he looks really happy, as does, let's be honest, Reece Nelson. And the reason is that they're playing. I speak for Eddie Nketiah as well over at Palace.
Yep.
Players want to play. At the end of the day, you like to be on great teams and what have you. This was the thing about Cole Palmer. Cole Palmer had positive future at City, but he wanted to play now, and he went to Chelsea. I think what I like about Reece Nelson. What about
Smith-Rowe?
Smith-Rowe. Smith-Rowe is he makes the game look very easy. And take that second goal. Very simple 1-2 though. Yeah. Beautiful goal. And I think the key to that, and Pope got a lot of stick from the Toon fans, but the speed of the execution of the shot, which wasn't too hard, was the keeper couldn't get set. And you tell players, shoot early, always shoot early. Don't tee it. Don't give it that that little step, and because then the keeper can get feet and hands set. early shots always kill, and Pope. I think there are a lot. I think there are better keepers than Pope that would have had a problem with that shot yesterday. Again, not because of the speed,
Right.
but the fact that it was it was one touch, bang, and it was a nice goal. And I thought 2-0. I thought, you know what, this is going to be our day. We're going to bugger the Toons. We're going to get them finally, which is good because we've not had, and Marco Silva's not had a lot of luck against them. And it's not like we've not put good performances in against the Toons. We have. We just haven't had the rub of the green. Yesterday, I thought we did. And it was good to see.
Okay, excellent. So as we talk about Smith Rowe, I want to go back and talk a little bit about Pereira, because I think now Smith Rowe is your number 10, Giannis.
Yes.
I don't know what is going to happen with the situation. This is what's interesting, because I think Marco Silva eventually is going to have a headache. Once Berger gets up to full fitness, how do you get all these players on the pitch at the same time, including Pereira? Because I think Pereira is now going to be contending to be your number 8. But here's the thing. What do you do with Pereira ultimately? Because I don't see him being your number 10. Would it be a waste? I think it would be a waste to move Smith Rowe out wide. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. Somebody has to give way here. And the thing about makes it difficult for Marco is that the stats are bearing out the fact that Pereira is creating chances.
Exactly.
So he could turn around to the media and say, well, look, he's in the lineup, but he's doing A, B, C, D. Problem is, Smith Rowe is a 10. Sander Berger is going to get up to full fitness. You've got Sasha obviously in there as well.
Right.
And if one of them has to go, I think it has to be Pereira. It's got to be Pereira, unless, of course, you think you want to put Smith Rowe out wide. So, no. Because actually, I was thinking Iwobi. Iwobi could play in the 10, but Iwobi is going to have a problem because Reece Nelson has now, scored 2.
I know we have Reece Nelson in the mix too now.
Right, another happy-looking player as well. So you got players. You got a headache, but I think it's a good thing. And I think one of the things will have to be how they do in training. These next 2 games are going to be defining. City, Forest are going to be difficult. We know that. They're always tough at the City ground. I actually can see Sander Berger starting that game because it's an away game.
Okay.
I can see Sander Berger starting against City as well, because they'll go up there to keep things tight against a City team that soon may have minus 300 points. Here's hoping. But that would be nice. But we can't be as expensive away from home as we are at home, and I think that Berger can more or less put himself on the. He and Lukic will start next week against Forest, I think, because last time we played them, they cut us open first 20-25.
They absolutely did, Giannis. I was thinking when we talk about Nottingham Forest this week, that's something that is going to be a talking point for me. How do we adjust from really getting destroyed by Nottingham Forest? But let's talk about actually a comment we've got from our friend Brian here, because we're talking about all this. I find this interesting. How do we get Reece Nelson into the lineup? Who gets dropped, Giannis? It's an interesting question. Like I said, good headache to have.
Would have to be Iwobi, I think, okay. and it's not. And to be fair to Iwobi, he's not doing anything wrong either.
No, neither is Traore.
No, all Traore's he's playing out of his absolute socks. He's playing out of his absolute socks. It's just it's so much fun, because when he was at Wolves, you always knew he had the potential. He was very, very, very quick, but he seems to have taken on a different dimension. He's cutting a lot more inside. He's much more willing to pass the ball. That was a superb ball to Earl for the first goal. It really was.
Yep.
I would argue with you now, he's one of the first players on the team sheet. So, which is, if you'd said that to me before the start of the season, I might have had a laugh. But not anymore. Traore was playing very, very well at the moment, and I think that's good for the club, because it now gives different headaches. You got players like Harrison Reed and Tom Kearney on the bench. Ryan Sessegnon can't even get into the squad. It's
right.
It's You got players like Godo, for example, that are knocking in the door. King as well.
Josh King.
Yes, these kids want to play as well, and that's the only negative about being out the Carabao Boo Boo Cup.
I know.
Can't really play them in, but they're going to get their chance for sure.
Totally agree. All right, let's now talk about Marco's changes because I actually think that they work. So I want to ask you a question: did Marco's changes overall work in this match? You already talked about the Lukic change, so we'll talk
Yeah.
about that. Get your thoughts on that. But it's not only that one; it's the changes that he made in the second half because I've been very critical of the timing of some of his subs, but I actually think he got everything right in this match. What do you make of the changes he made?
Yeah, I think he did as well. I mean, Pereira was beginning to lose gas, so Harrison came on 66, 67 minutes. Then he took Traore in, Jimenez off, got Nelson and Rodrigo on, and I think it's good to keep Rodrigo motivating 15, 16, 20 minutes. That's always good. I thought the subs were good. I mean, there's, to be fair, he's taken Willock off. He's brought Murphy on. Murphy's been part of the goal that Barnes has scored.
Yep.
I thought Gordon going off, I think it was 80 odd minutes, was a way too overdue. He looked really tired. He looked out of it. Frankly, I don't think Isak's 100% either. I could care less for them, but in terms of the timing of the substitution and the effectiveness, I thought Marco got it spot on yesterday, and I thought the Reed one was critical. Give him 20 plus minutes to run around, do the holding thing, which is something that really Andreas doesn't. He's not a holding midfielder by any means, and we seem to shut things down. There wasn't a lot of action going on in zones 1 and 2 at our end. So overall, I thought he got subs just about bang on.
Okay, excellent, Giannis. Okay, final talking point before we go to the starting 11 is this. How reliant have Fulham become on Sasa Lukic? Now, what's interesting about this, and I'm going to share it because I actually put this on X, it's very interesting that one of our former players just played 20 minutes for Bayern Munich yesterday. I find that fascinating. And we've talked on and on about trying to replace Paulinho. Fulham have not replaced Paulinho. But that's okay. I think they're doing it in a different way. But here's the question. How reliant have Fulham become on Sasa Lukic? Because I think the way they want to play, he is vital to that. But he got the yellow card, like you said, Giannis. And I think Marco was a little fearful in the second half. So he makes the move and he has Berga play that role. And then unfortunately, like you already said, they turned off at the beginning of the second half and get the sucker punch to get them back in the match. We're talking about Newcastle United. But I think eventually you're going to see Berga and Lukic play together. You already mentioned that. But how reliant have they become on this player that a couple seasons ago we weren't sure what we have? I think he is a player that does not get enough credit.
I agree. He was at Torino for a number of years and he was lauded. The fans were up in arms when he got transferred to Fulham. The difficulty, of course, is it takes a year to, unless you're a really, really special talent like a Haaland, to adjust to the rigors of the Premier League. But you saw signs in the first year that he could do it. But now he's into his own. I thought he was real quality in the first half yesterday. It keeps the game very, very simple. And at the end of the day, it is a simple game.
Yep.
It's just not easy. You have to be consistent with it. And I thought he was excellent in the first half, one of our very best players. It's just that unfortunately he got the yellow card, and that seemed to throw things up. We're very reliant on him, I agree. Now, of course, if we get an injury, then you could put Berger in the middle with Pereira if that's what you want to do. But the key to us playing, high-level footy this year and going up the table is going to be Lukic because he really does knock everything in. And Anderson, I've got to make a mention of Anderson because
go ahead.
Anderson partnership with Bassi is beginning to bear fruit. I feel a little sorry for Issa Diop because I don't think he's done necessarily anything wrong. But he does provide the depth. And Anderson, it's so much fun watching him ping these 30, 40, 50-yard balls. It really is. He's usually on the money. and it gets me laughing because it's so much fun watching it. He's fantastic to have him around. He's but Lukic has been excellent, and he isn't a Serbian. Roy Keane once said a few years ago, anyone can play international football because the quality, isn't as great necessarily as the highest level of the highest leagues. But Lukic is a seasoned veteran with the Serbian international team, and it is for good reason. Unfortunately, his other teammate decided to go off to Saudi and just scored 50 goals in 51 appearances. Astonishing.
Yeah.
For Mitrovic, yeah. But there you have it. Yeah, we love Lukic.
Okay, excellent, Giannis. All right, now let's get to the starting 11. So when you saw this, what were your first thoughts?
No complaints, really. The only thing you could have was there a possibility that you put Sanderberger in. I don't think Sanderberger was quite ready. Is he quite ready? We're not sure. Right. But no complaints. I was more interested actually in what they were going to do because there were some issues.
Yeah.
Isak. Isak, yeah. Isak, but Isak was not anonymous yesterday. He really did. Barnes was their best player, and I think by a country mile. They didn't. They really didn't. They really didn't do anything of anything. We even gave Dan Burn a hard time, and Dan Burn usually finds a way to score a goal against us. So, but our lineup was fine. It was the bench. It's more now looking at the bench and seeing what you got on the bench there. And I thought the bench looked okay. We're still not quite there, Russ. We're still not where, okay, you got Kearney there, of course, Berger and Castagna, Diop and Munoz. It's all right. Oh, my apologies. Ryan did get on the bench yesterday, but he didn't. But he didn't come off the bench. So there you go. He had by all accounts, he had a decent game against Preston on Tuesday, which is good news. It means he's beginning to find his feet again. We all want Ryan to do well.
I totally agree, Giannis, but I agree with you that we're not all there yet. But I actually think we are going to improve substantially throughout this season. And like we talked about, I think January will be crucial to see exactly where the Cons want to go, because if they add a couple pieces like you mentioned, I think we definitely can contend for Europe. I think it's built that way. I think Marco's now seeing the team playing the way he wants them to play, and that's what's fascinating about this. All right, my friend, let's take a coming up next. We're going to look at the first half and the second half, and we'll end with man of the match. Okay, Giannis, let's now talk about the first half. I'll get us going and we'll stop at the goal. So you have the situation where Newcastle United comes out a little strong, and they actually had the ball in the back of the net, but Joe Linton was offside. And then what's fascinating about this, you have the response right away from Fulham. Mm-hmm. Right away. And I've listened to a lot of commentary on the goal that we scored from Raul Jimenez and a lot of blame on the center backs. I just listened to a podcast, a Newcastle United podcast, blaming the center backs. At some point, you just got to give credit to Raul Jimenez, Adama Traore for setting up the goal. This was a great goal. So let's talk about the goal from Raul Jimenez. And he looks like a different player right now, Giannis.
Yeah, it was a very good ball from Traore on the right. And I think Newcastle fans aren't happy about the marking on Raul, but I think he deserves a lot of credit because it wasn't just a straight swivel and shoot. He had to really crack those hips around. So it was struck with a lot of venom, and it was struck down as well. So it was a lovely goal. It was a lovely move, and it was perfect riposte for the Joe Linton. Which I mean, to be fair to Joe Linton, it was great save by Lennon, really good shot on the rebound. Because I thought, Joe Linton scores, we're in for another one of those bloody afternoons. But
that's right.
44 seconds is all it took.
That's right.
44 seconds, and then Jimenez scored the goal. And at that point, I thought, you know what? At that point, I felt comfortable that we were going to hold on just because we were playing well, and they really weren't doing a lot of anything. The fullbacks looked a little bit leggy. Cher and Byrne don't necessarily fill you with the greatest of, fear. I'm not. I'm in the minority here. I'm not a great fan of Guimaraes. I think he's a selfish player, and I don't think he is necessarily a thinking player, as was typified by that third goal. I've got no
That's
idea what
right.
he was doing playing the ball across his box. Really, absolutely ridiculous. They do have very good players, but a couple of them were off song, and I'll admit that Gordon looked off. Isak looked off. Barnes did have a good game. But I just, I thought
Where
with the
was
first,
Alexander Isak in this match?
yeah, he was non-existent, non-existent. I think he was still carrying an injury. I was surprised because all the rumblings coming out of St James's Park that he wasn't going to start. So I was surprised, a bit disappointed that he started, but I shouldn't have been because he really did nothing of anything. They really didn't. Even after the first goal, they didn't pose much of a threat
No.
until there's the second goal.
Yes, and before we get to the second goal, I want to mention Fulham actually did have a couple of opportunities, and the one that really stands out to me, Giannis, is the one from Emile Smith-Rowe, which hits the crossbar. And I'm thinking he was inches from scoring then, but he follows that up. And this is, I'll call it a team goal again, Fulham on the second goal. It is Emile Smith-Rowe. And I'm glad that you mentioned this, Giannis, because the commentary here really nailed it. That we watched basically said this, that the reason why Pope was not able to get to the ball was because he took it so quickly and he was caught off guard. He didn't have enough chance to react. So I put this more about Smith-Rowe than I do on Pope. And that's the thing about this that actually irritated me. It's marginalizing a goal from Emile Smith-Rowe. This is about Iwobi and Smith-Rowe and Fulham for that second goal. Yeah, so let's talk about the second goal.
I used to tell players when I coached them, when you shoot, you want to shoot early. You don't want to get that goalkeeper set. And I thought, Pope will take some of the blame because he didn't get down on time, but he wasn't set. And that's because of Rowe's shot. And it wasn't.
That's right.
It wasn't a hard shot, Russ, by any means, but it was enough. And it started with Traore cutting across the middle, ball to Iwobi, really good run inside from Smith-Rowe, nice little 1-2, and it was like bing bang. It was literally bing bang, that speed, and it was in the back of the net. So you're scoring 2 goals at home against Newcastle, and you're suddenly thinking, well, okay, right, we're on the way to getting 3 points. They look very ordinary, look leg heavy. They don't seem to have a lot of shape. So we went into halftime and we were in a really good position. I thought, well, 2-0, we can get a third here. We could give them a real waxing here. This would be a lot of fun. But unfortunately, it wasn't to be because they scored as soon as the second half started.
Right, and let's go right there, Giannis. Before we talk about the goal, which happened almost immediate, they make 2 substitutions, which help them. Fulham make a key substitution, which we've already talked about, bringing on Sanderberger for Lukic, and maybe that caused a little bit of an adjustment in Newcastle United. I want to give them credit. They were on it from the minute the second half began. Fulham, as people keep telling me, were asleep at the wheel, and they get the sucker punch. So let's talk about the goal from Harvey Barnes. I'm a big fan of Harvey Barnes. And he scores the goal to make it very interesting for the second half, at the very beginning of the second half. So let's talk about the Newcastle United goal.
Yeah, funnily enough, it started with Jacob Murphy.
Yeah,
who is a good player, and I think he'd be a starter on many teams. And Barnes has sort of strode in to the box, and Leno didn't have a lot of chance because the ball went through Tete's legs. It was again a quick shot, didn't really allow Leno to get set. He dived, but he just couldn't quite get there. But I think if Marco looks at the game tape and they talk about this at practice tomorrow, he's going to be furious with that goal. He's going to say, look, we've dominated the first half, we ran them ragged, we made them look really silly. We've talked about what we've talked about half-time to make sure that we know that they're not going to throw the kitchen sink at the second half. They're going to come out with a reaction. They're going to be pissed off. Eddie Howe's going to have a few choice words to say. and within 30 seconds of the start, they've scored. So that will not sit well with him by any means, and it'll be a gentle reminder to the players that you're not always as good as you think you are. It was a disappointing goal to watch because it came at a terrible timing.
Totally agree.
But having said that, I think the big plus is how resilient we were. Even
Exactly,
though
Giannis.
we held our shape, Russ, which was great.
Yes.
And I think I know they've got a chat. They've had a couple of back-to-back when Tottenham and Wolves through late goals, and so we knew that they had that in them. But we needed to stay strong. That's where the substitution of Harrison Reed for Pereira, I think, was absolutely critical.
Yep.
And I think all the subs seemed to work. And to get the third goal was icing on the cake. I think it was, to me, it was a 3-1 performance.
Yep.
We were 2 goals better than them, and they really should have no complaints. And as I said, it's long overdue. It's good to see players, the confidence players, Smith Rowe, Nelson, obviously Raul, playing really well and having lots of fun. So it was overall, it was as disappointing as it was to concede the goal. At least we showed a lot of resilience as a result of that early goal. Although it still annoys me that blow the second half whistle and they go marching.
I know.
It's the worst case scenario, really.
It is, but I'm glad that you talked about the resilience and the substitutions coming on. But you also have this opportunity. It's funny because we're going to talk about it in a few minutes. The opportunity that Newcastle United had to get the equalizer, and it was a tremendous opportunity. And I put some blame on Fulham on that, but we'll get to that in just a second. Before that, you have the opportunity, and I didn't hear much talk about this. Iwobi had a wonderful opportunity to score to make it 3-1. So if we're going to talk about the opportunity, right, for Newcastle United to get the equalizer, how about the opportunity Fulham had before that with Alex Iwobi? He scores that, this match is over, Giannis, okay? And it happened to be a very good save from Nick Pope. Let's talk about that, because if they score here, it's over.
I think I've seen the replay a few times. I'm going to put some blame on Iwobi. I think he's got to finish that. He's 6 yards out. I'm a big fan of his, but no, he's got to finish that. It was a good save by Pope. Pope made a few good saves, but he really had basically an empty net because Pope was down, and he's hit at a Pope, so it's like it's a reflex save.
Yep.
But that would have finished it.
Right.
But it's. And you know the other thing as well, Russ. It's this win was a big win because of what's happened to the club this week. It's been with Mohamed Al Fayed,
right?
And I've not seen the documentary here in Canada.
Neither have I. I have not seen it yet.
It's not of the ilk of Jimmy Savile, but it is very, very serious. It's deeply disturbing. So I think we needed some positive media this week, and the way to do that is to do that on the football pitch, because if these rumors are true, if these stories are true, then it costs not the fans. Obviously, we've got the greatest fans, and not the players. But it casts people who were at the club in a certain light. So we desperately needed to have some good publicity this week, and at least we got that with the win yesterday.
Absolutely, Giannis. All right, so let's go forward into the second half, and we have to talk about the situation from Fabian Schär, because he could have passed that. He could have scored. This is actually Fulham really dodged the bullet here, my friend. So let's talk about this whole mess here.
Yeah, I wouldn't be having a go at Schär, because you have the screw up. Leno's passing the ball, it's gone short to Smith Rowe. He's just hit it first time. He's hit it first time. He's not thought, and that's split second. He turns left. He sees he's out there. Maybe it's maybe a tap in, but the point is that I don't, but for missing it, it's a sitter, but split second decision that you make. It was a howler, and I was watching the Premier League highlight show last night,
Yep.
and Peter Schmeichel was on, and
What did he say?
he said, "I don't understand why." He says, "I understand the playing out of the back, but what I don't understand is playing out of the back without options. Because if you're going to mark against that, if you mark against playing out from the back, what you do to counter it is you mark every player on the pitch. And so whatever happened with the long clearance down the middle of the park, there's nothing wrong with that. But we
No.
still try and take risks. And we still try and, teams still try and do a Tottenham, and it's extremely risky. I'm surprised there aren't more goals like this. It does tell you about the intricate skill of these professionals and the amount of work they do in the training field to get it right. Because it looks brilliant a lot of the time. They say, how do they get out of those tight corners? But when it goes wrong, it goes wrong.
Yes.
And Leno and Smith Rowe were having a cow about it, but the fact of the matter is, really, it's all down to Leno.
Exactly.
The man's not on. Clear your lines. That's it. Simple stuff. Clear your lines. Who cares if you got an aerial battle in the middle of the park? Nobody gives a bollocks. But he didn't do that.
Right.
Unfortunately, we had that. We almost conceded an equaliser, stupid equaliser.
Yeah. Totally agree, Giannis, and that's why I wanted to go there. All right. So let's end with us talking about the goal from Reece Nelson. And it's funny because I know you already talked about Bruno, and Bruno is loved by the Newcastle United supporters, but I don't think they could be too happy with what he did here. But apparently he went to the Newcastle United supporters after the match and basically said it's on him. It's on him, which I want to give him credit for. But again, this comes down to what Fulham wanted to do. They wanted the third goal. They were pressing, and they made this happen, Giannis. So let's talk about the third goal from Fulham from Reece Nelson. This is good stuff.
It was comical, really. I'm not really sure. It went off somebody's side. I think it might have been Berger's.
I think it did.
And took a deflection. But what's he doing? What's he doing playing a ball across a box, a crowded box? Like, what's he doing? He had a brain cramp. That's all I can think of. It was, as I said, I think I said to you earlier. I'm not in the Guimaraes world class camp. I'm not. I don't see it. I really don't see it. I'm not saying that the mistake yesterday is just like, yeah, that's just proof of it. I don't think he's as good as people make out to be.
Okay.
But world class players usually don't make mistakes as pronounced as that. And it was a horror, absolute horror. Because you might see that in House League, you won't even see that in Rep. You got a player who's wide and he's in trouble and he's feeling pressure. Okay, try and play it down the line. Or if you've been really ultra conservative, and the fans will be after you for this, just knock it out. Give away a throw-in. Who cares? Doesn't matter. We know statistically it's difficult to create from set pieces like throw-ins, but he didn't. He thought he'd be cute, and the ball's come across. It's taken the deflection. Reece Nelson's got half an hour to finish.
Yeah.
And it's great for Nelson because Nelson was lively when he came on, which was great.
Yeah.
But it's about time we punish errors like that. Because last week against the Spammers, they made enough mistakes, and we just we didn't punish them.
Right.
And Ings burnt us. I'm still annoyed about that because it really, if you watched the West Ham Chelsea game yesterday, West Ham looked poor. They look poor. Lopetegui's a good coach, but he's got a lot of work to do. And we destroyed him last week, and somehow we didn't come out with a win. So it was nice to get a little bit of fortune yesterday and come out and, take a chance like that and score from it. So please for Nelson, please for the club. Good win. Gives us a week to get ready for Forest, which we know is going to be a very difficult game.
Totally
and then get ready for City, where, we're a different team now. We're organised. We look as though we're having fun. We're dominating teams. We're not looking scared on the ball. Marco's really put his imprint on his club, and it's good to watch. So happy days are here again, even though we got knocked out of the Boo Boo Cup.
I'm there with you, Giannis. And listen, we'll talk about the matches coming up, but I don't think Fulham are going to fear Man City. I don't think they're going to beat Man City. I don't think they'll get anything from it. But I think Fulham are going to be different this season against the top clubs. I think they're going to progress even more, and they're going to beat some of the top clubs because I think, listen, if Newcastle United are considered one of the top clubs, I don't think that they are at this point, then Fulham made them look bad. And that has more to do with Fulham than it does Newcastle United, in my opinion. But
Yes.
I'm also this huge optimist that everyone knows. All right. Let's finish up, my friend, with man of the match. If you're watching live, we have a good amount of people watching live. Feel free to share your thoughts on man of the match. I'll let you go first, Giannis, and I'll share my man of the match.
Well, it wasn't Aite.
Of course, we have to have one.
Of course not. I'm going to give it to Amanda Traore. I thought he was he's set up both first two goals. I thought he worked very hard defensively. I think he's become a very disciplined player. I thought he was really neat and tidy. There were some honourable mentions. I wanted to talk about Lukic first half. I thought Anderson was outstanding.
Yep.
I thought Smith Rowe was excellent. I think Iwobi was lively. But to me, Traore has been an absolute revelation. And I thought he was excellent yesterday. So for me, it goes to the guy who likes to lube his arms. It's Amanda Traore.
Amanda Traore. Okay, let's go to Brian. He says, Anderson, man of the match, calm, steady, leadership at the back, give him the Arbin. Okay. Steve Reynolds says Tete. Our friend Colm, he says, Joachim Anderson, man of the match for me. I'm going with Anderson because I think along with Smith Rowe, another player that I think is really changing Fulham, Giannis, I've been talking about this on Cottage Talk. Joachim Anderson definitely is changing them because I think not only it's about his confidence, I think he makes players around him confident as well. Yeah. The passing ability is already there. But defensively right now, Giannis, let's look at this because Fulham are right now very good defensively. I can't always say that, but I can say that right now. You've got Tete and Castagna. You, as your right backs on the left, you have Jedi and you have Sessegnon. Center backs right now, you have Anderson and Bassi, and I think they're going to make a very good combo. And then you, like you said, you can always play Diop if you need to. And then you have Cuenca, and then you have as your goalkeeper, Leno. But I think the key ingredient here is Anderson.
Well, Anderson's, he was superb when we got relegated. I thought he was outstanding. Could have scored yesterday. Great, super shot.
Didn't mention
25 out. Scored. Yeah. That was a good save by the Pope saved. But we've got strength in depth in most positions, which is good because we're going to get injuries, we're going to get illnesses, we're going to get suspensions for sure. I am assuming, by the way, that Lukic was brought off because of the yellow. I haven't heard anything about.
I haven't heard anything else
about getting a knock or anything like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're building up slowly but surely. That's why the next two games are going to be they're going to be interesting. They're going to be interesting. Forest, we want to get a little bit of revenge on them. 2 years ago we knocked them off 4-2. Last year we lost 3-1. We were 3 down early, and Silva made all those subs at halftime. I think he'll be quick to remind them about how bad last year's game was.
Yeah.
Even though we've knocked them off 5-0 at home. And then we've got City. And we play well against City at home. On the road, not so much, but we'll give it a go. We'll give it a go. We'll give a good account of ourselves. And if we put the right lineup out, we'll frustrate them for a little bit and ask some questions of them, and hopefully we can do the unthinkable and get at least a point up at the
Etihad.
Up at the Etihad. That would be a lot of fun.
Okay, excellent. Giannis, thank you so much for joining me this morning. And
pleasure.
I was going to say, I hope you enjoyed it, but I think you did.
Absolutely. Okay. Totally. 3 more points in 8th position. That's another way I like to look at it is how far from the bottom 3 are we? And we're 7 points clear.
There you go. Giannis.
Go on your words.
All right. Excellent. Okay. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Cottage Talk. As always, please do subscribe on YouTube and Apple Podcasts. If you're interested, please do check out the Cottage Talk Patreon page. There will be a link if you listen to the show to try to get to the page. Check it out. And I would appreciate it if you like what you listen to, become a member. That'd be great. Okay. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. My name's Russ Goldman. He's Giannis Shanaeus. Thank you as always for watching and listening to Cottage Talk, part of the Talk Sport Fan Network.